Hello everyone, my name is Pascal Vigné and I'd like to welcome you to this video. In today's video I'd like to talk about sweeping technique and I'd like to show you an approach that is very efficient to develop this technique. There are lots of guitar players out there who use the sweeping technique the wrong way. You know, if I take this A major arpeggio for example, many of them play this arpeggio just for the effect and you don't really hear the note and it goes like this. You know, they just scratch the strings basically, but it's not true sweeping technique. And so I'd like to show you this approach. So we're going to divide this arpeggio in different note groups. So the first note group I'd like to focus on right now is a two-note group. So we're just going to play two notes at a time. We're going to take the first two notes of this A major arpeggio, which is the root A here, and the major third, which is C sharp here, using the third finger. And what we're going to do is we're going to play these two notes. So the first two notes, when you ascend these two, you're going to use downstrokes like this. And then you're going to go the other way around. So you're going to play two upstrokes. So that's the descending part of the arpeggio. To do that, you're going to incline your wrist a little bit. You know, so your pick has to go this way when you ascend. And when you descend, it has to go this way. It's much harder to see when you just play two note groups, you know, because the chain is really fast and subtle. So it goes like this. Try to have a regular subdivision. So you don't want to hear this. You don't want to hear this. So you need to separate the two notes. So you have to use a particular technique with your left hand to do that. You know, it's made of three different movements. So first you press, then you release, and then you take your finger off. The second part, release, is really important because it's going to enable you to mute the string you've just played. Lots of guitar players just press and release, and when you do that, you get harmonics or you get open strings. And you know, if you really want to have a clean tone and a great command of this technique, really think of it as a three-step approach. All right, so press, release, and take the finger off, and then move on to the next notes. As for the pick, it always has to stay in touch with the string you're about to play. Okay, it's not like alternate picking where you go like this. On the contrary, here you really have to, you know, stay in contact with the string you play. Whatever the movement, I mean, if you ascend an arpeggio, you descend it. It goes exactly the same way. Always keep your pick in touch with the strings. So let's do this for a little while and maybe increase the speed. It may take you some time, okay? Even a few weeks to really master this movement. Actually, I find it much harder to play on two notes than on 3, 4, 5, or 6 notes. You may also use a metronome if you want to make sure that, you know, the subdivision is correct and you always play on time. Just for this example, I'm not going to use any metronome, but feel free to use if you need to. So let's move on to the next two strings, the next two notes. So we're going to play the major third here. So it's on the 11th fret of the D string, and then we're going to play the 5th. So it's the E on the 9th fret of the G string. So you can play these two together. So make sure that it's regular, and then you can increase the speed if you want to. So once you've done that, you can move on to the next two notes. So you're going to start from the fifth that we just played, and then you're going to play the root, so the second octave of the arpeggio. It's the same thing as before, just make sure you don't play the two notes together like this. So make sure you have a good finger independence on the left hand. And now let's move to the last two notes. So you're going to play the root here, so A, and then the third C sharp here on the 9th fret of the E string. So once you feel comfortable with this approach, you can then play 3-note groups. So we're just going to play the first 3 notes of this arpeggio. So it's going to be the triad, the root, the third and the fifth, like this. So using the same technique as before, think of it as an arpeggio, separate the 3 notes, incline the pick this way when you ascend and this way when you descend. It's really important to do that. And then use the technique I mentioned, which is the press, release and take off thing to avoid some parasite noises. And also what's really important here is the first note, because you have a natural harmonic on the 12th fret, so you probably need to cover the string with the external side of your right hand once you've done playing it, otherwise you're going to get the harmonic. Also practice this diatonically. I mean, if you're in A major, you can use, you can also play the B minor arpeggio. So now let's move to the next 3 notes. So we're going to start from the third, the major third, here. So this one here is a little more difficult for the left hand because of the finger independence. So make sure you really spend some time to get your brain and your fingers used to this fragment. And now let's move to the next one. So we're going to start from the 5th, right here. And so you're going to play the 5th, the root, and then the major third. So what's a little tricky here is the fact that we're using the index for 2 notes out of 3, so it really has to move quite fast and be really precise. So get used to the movement and play slow at first and then increase the speed, you know, when you get used to the movement. So now let's move to the last 3 notes of the arpeggios. So it's going to be a combination of sweep picking and alternate picking. When I play arpeggios, I not always, but very often use the alternate picking for the upper part of the arpeggio. This way I get, you know, continuous attack. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play the first 2 notes using the sweeping technique, but then I'm going to shift to alternate picking like this. So I'm going to play the E note here with my pinky twice, So it's going to be an upstroke, then a downstroke, and then 2 upstrokes to finish the arpeggios. So it goes like this. So now let's move on to 4-note groups. So we're going to start from the root again. So be careful of the natural harmonic. And we're going to play 4 notes like this. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 downstrokes, 4 upstrokes. So let's try this a little faster now. So it's really hard when you play 4 notes like this to have a really good finger independence and to separate the 4 notes. So sometimes you get more chords than actual arpeggios. You know, sometimes it goes like this. So maybe just a couple of strings here or here. So make sure that you always have separate notes when you play 4, 5, or 6 note arpeggios. So let's move to the next 4 notes now. So we're going to start from the third, the major third, so the C sharp. So it goes like this. So let's try this a little faster now. So again, the main problem for the left hand is the finger independence and having a good technique to mute the strings and to synchronize the 2 hands. Play slow at first and then gradually increase the speed. Again, if you want to use a metronome, that's a really good idea too. So now we're going to play the next 4 notes. And as before, the problem is going to be the combination of sweep technique and alternate picking. So we're going to start off from the 5th here using the index, and then we're going to play 3 more notes. So we're going to play this a little faster now. Once you've done that, you can actually move to 5-note groups. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to start off from the A as usual, so the root here, and we're going to play 5 notes. So we're going to stop here at the major third on the E string. So this way you'll get 5 downstrokes. Don't forget to incline the pick. And then 5 upstrokes as well. So you're going to repeat the last note, so the major third here. And then you go all the way down, and once you've done playing the last upstroke, you double this note by playing another downstroke, you know, just to cycle the arpeggio. So it goes like this. So now let's move on to the next 5 notes. So we're going to start off from the major third on the 11th fret of the D string. And at the top you will have to combine with alternate picking as we did before. And then you can finally play the entire arpeggio using 6 note groups. So you're going to start off from the root all the way to the 5th here on the 12th fret on the E string, high E string, and it goes like this. You can use this approach on all the arpeggios that you play because it's going to enable you to have really a great effect and a perfect articulation of all the notes that the arpeggios are made of. So if you haven't done this yet, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, leave a thumbs up, feel free to share the video as well, and I'll see you in a bit. Bye bye!